Hey you guys, welcome back to Smiley Said It. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about The Good Son, a throwback. It's a really good throwback, so let's look at the trailer.
What if there was this boy and he did these terrible things because he liked doing them? Such a sweet little thing. It'd be too bad if something were to happen to her.
This movie is a 90s classic and I love it so much. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie, but we're going to deep dive into the incompetent husbands of the movie because my goodness. Actually, this is a horror and a drama, but I like to call it a horror because in all honesty, it really is a horror film. Elijah plays Mark in the movie, who lost his mother, unfortunately, and his father, who's a business guy, decided to drop his son off with relatives. Now, granted, Mark, I believe, is from the West Coast because when they were driving in the beginning of the movie, I seen like the desert and stuff like that. And then eventually they made it to Maine.
Spring, what it means to be from Maine.
If you're from New England, then you would know what I'm talking about. But yeah, for those that don't know, I'm from Boston. And Poland Spring had like a little commercial that they had, and they used to sing like a little jingle, and it had that in it. And it will forever be embedded in my brain. So, and Macaulay Culkin plays Henry. Quinn Culkin, who's actually Macaulay Culkin's real sister in real life, plays Connie, who is such a doll. I mean, she is so cute. Daniel Hugh Kelly plays Wallace. He is not really the person I have a problem with in this film. I mean, granted, I do. David Morse plays Jack. Jack is the one that really pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. And he is the one that dropped his son off to stay with his relatives that he has not really met formally. So it was his idea that he wanted to drop off Mark to pretty much get familiar during such a tragedy. Mark had to have been like 12 years old or something like that. They were children. They were young. Wendy Crewson plays the mom of Henry, and her name is Susan in the movie. Now, Susan at first kind of pissed me off a little bit, but she got herself together, okay? Miss Susan was like, all right, granted, I just lost a son myself. Mark lost his mom, right? But Susan just recently lost her little boy, her baby, and we're going to find out how that is. I can't imagine taking care of a little boy that just lost his mom and I just lost my son and trying to give him everything he needs in that moment. Henry, who is the trouble child, he is the omen, so to speak, and also responsible for killing her little son, aka his brother, by drowning him in the tub, which is disgusting. But she doesn't know that. She doesn't know that. She thought it was just an accident and it was just, one of those situations. Which, by the way, if you've never been to Maine, what it means to be from Maine. If you've never been to Maine, it is really, truly a beautiful state. You got to try the lobster if you do like seafood. It's the best. Like, Maine lobster to me is the best lobster that there is. I don't care what nobody says. Fight your mother. Maine lobster is so juicy. It's so sweet. The perfect lobster. I've had different lobsters in my travels, but Maine lobster is the best.
Are you aware that the lobsters in your fridge are Canadian?
Same waters, North Atlantic waters.
You're telling me now a Canadian lobster, half the price of a Maine lobster, is the same taste and flavor? There's a big difference.
But you do know that it's really, really sad for a child to lose his mom at such a young age and witnessing her, slowly dying. I believe it was due to cancer of some sort, but I guess the father was like, you know what? I got to take care of business still. The money needs to come in now that I'm a single father. I wouldn't do that. So if I lost my wife and she passed away and I have this young child who's about 10 to 12 years old, I don't know if I would be comfortable leaving him to stay with relatives that he don't remember or even know while I'm away making money and I'm stuck in this state of Maine that I've never been to, a new state, a different culture, a different environment. And hope for the best. You know, what if he has a mental breakdown? What if he just doesn't acclimatize to the environment? That was a red flag number one for him being incompetent. Don't send your children off to stay with relatives that they don't really know. Why you go try to make a business errand or a business trip? So now you put your son in the hands of a couple that has two children and just recently lost one, which doesn't make sense. Like, I would never put that much pressure because let me tell you, Susan was pretty much taking care of everything. I don't know where Jack was during most of this movie. Jack came in later. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving my son for 2 weeks. It's been 10 years since they've seen each other, and I would never do any of that. He sent his son away for 2 weeks. He's mourning. He's a child. Okay, and he does not know who these people are, even though they're relatives. And he's gonna find out, I really don't know y'all because y'all are crazy. Most parents will take a leave of absence, I'm sure, right? If one of their spouses passed away for the sake of being with family and relatives, especially during a time like this where a little kid is going to be confused and lost, losing his mom, which is a pretty big deal. It was when Mark was like, okay, I don't think this is a good idea. I believe that Henry is troubled and Aunt Susan is not believing me, and I need you to come back like ASAP. So Uncle Wallace, who genuinely was the worst uncle, majority of the film, he popped up here and there, but he was not really there present. Like, he was just there for dinner. When Mark expressed the fact that Henry was being a little bit weird and play fighting, even when it came to Connie, Henry's little sister, how he was punking her and literally like physically harassing her. I'm glad that Mark stepped in and pretty much was like, oh no, you're not gonna kill our little Connie. I know you killed your little brother, but I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna protect her. And the parents didn't kind of really see. I mean, I get it. You don't want to believe that your child killed your child because they're children, right? But it happens. They all needed therapy. But the therapist, I'm going to tell you, reminded me of the therapist in the Orphan movie. Like, literally the same. They didn't want to believe the people that needed to be believed in. And shout out to the parallel when they were in a treehouse with Susan and Henry. When Susan discovered the rubber ducky that was originally in the bathtub when Henry drowned her son, and she's like, what are you doing with this? You know, and he literally was fighting with her about taking it out of her hand. And that's when she knew. She was like, oh, you definitely have something to do with this. It just felt like the kid was on his own and nobody believed him. And the dad, being the head of the household, as people like to say, really, really dropped the ball. The mom really, really took place in getting everything sorted and handled, unfortunately, by dropping her son off a ledge and choosing her nephew. Now, I want to know how she's going to explain that to her husband and explain that to Mark's father, because that has to be rough. Like, you lost both of your sons. I just can't imagine. Susan had a bad child. Susan had a really bad. Who's going to comfort her? Who can she run to? That was a good son. It wasn't really too much to harp on because it wasn't really much of a long film. Because again, we didn't really see much of the husband and the uncle in the film. But that's why they're incompetent, because they weren't present during one of the most hectic times of these children's lives. Like, seriously? Yeah. Have a good one. I'll see you guys later. Peace.